All right. Good evening, baseball fans. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It is great to have you with us. The Cleveland Guardians today, Dalton Brown. It's interesting choice.
You know, sometimes you just grab the hat that's closest to you. And as you know, I've got a whole bunch of them. And I looked over at that box of hats, and this is the one that happened to be on top today. So go Gardos it is.
Does it change every – is that the thing? Is it changes? Do you shuffle it around? And
I mean, I have a tendency to just wear random hats around town. So it's kind of, yeah. I mean, like if you catch me around the Twin Cities, I might be wearing a Blue Jays hat one day, Twins hat the next day, and so on. So today it's Guardians.
So, all right, love that. So plenty of stuff to go over today. Main thing, obviously, is – Yankees-Dodgers. We didn't get to preview that last week, but we are going to recap that series this week. 2 out of 3, Dodgers took that series from the Yankees. It was in Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we were just talking about a pre-show how Dalton predicted how those games were going to go, and every game went exactly the opposite. And it was perfect. And to be honest with you, it was perfectly good reasoning, pitching matchups and everything like that, perfectly good reasoning on why you would think that way. It just, that's how baseball goes sometimes. It's just you predict them. And
I mean, that's the beauty of why we watch. That's why we play 162. So,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's craziness. So we'll talk about Yankees Dodgers. That's obviously the big story of the day. We're going to talk about, we're in June now. We're going to be approaching, summer, time to make some moves. Like we're going to kind of approach that time in a fairly short period. What teams are kind of buying, what teams are selling. We're going to look at a couple of teams like the Diamondbacks, the Braves, the Texas Rangers, teams like that could potentially look to either offload some talent or maybe just keep pushing forward. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. And then obviously we've got picks later tonight, but first we do have, what we do every show is we cater to our own fan bases. I'm sorry about that, again, but, Dalton, you are not only
2 weeks, we're a little rusty.
Yeah, right. Dalton, you are the defending champs, not only from last year's World Series, but you are also the defending champs of this weekend. So, Dodgers, you go first, buddy.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about the series as we go along, but general state of the Dodgers, I spoke 2 weeks ago a lot about how we're going into a part of the schedule here where it's 29 consecutive games against teams in playoff position. So far, Dodgers are 12 games into that stretch, and it's hard for me to be too upset about 7-5. So I feel pretty good about the baseball that they're playing, especially given, 14 players on the injured list. I know that's been beaten to death. But I think they're doing what you would hope they'd be able to do so far. That Yankees series was encouraging, put me in a position where I didn't really mind dropping the Sunday game. And that, you could tell by the way Roberts handled the pitching that there was a little bit of a okay, we got this series. Yamamoto didn't pitch well. Let's not run our best arms out there and try to chase this. Let's get ready for the Mets series coming up. So pretty good stuff in general. As far as news around the team, I think the biggest thing that you and I haven't had a chance to talk about yet, Shohei Ohtani facing live hitters now twice. He did it in New York at Citi Field in front of an audience of Mets players and their manager, which people made a big deal out of, but faced a few hitters there, topped out around 97. Stuff looks like it's got some good life. So that's all pretty encouraging. And then he did so again this weekend, pitching well before falling asleep, taking a little mid-game nap in the middle of that 18-2 game. And then obviously he's been hit a bunch of homers. So, vibes are in a pretty good spot, right? I mean, I talked about treading water through this month. They're doing that so far. And then once you hit June 19th, the rest of the season, the Dodgers have the easiest schedule in baseball by opponent record. So can't complain too much. Just want to get healthy. And, hopefully guys like Mookie Betts can stop stubbing and fracturing toes around the house.
I saw that notification, by the way, on Friday, and I was like, that's the way the Dodgers season has gone. Like, Mookie Betts is out because he stubbed his toe. It's just remarkable. Oh my goodness. But listen, man, all it is for the Dodgers is getting healthy. That's it. Like honestly, that's it. That's the moral of the story. Get healthy, find some pitching, and sustain yourself while you're getting healthy. Andy Pages looks like a real dude. Like,
I mean, all through the minors, this guy was the best hitter in the system. And a lot of it is he's an aggressive hitter. He swings early in counts. He makes a ton of contact. And I think, not to cut you off there, but
yeah.
I think his first few months as a big league hitter, there was a lot made of him wanting to work counts, wanting to take professional at bats, wanting to be a pro. And he had a conversation with Teoscar Hernandez in April where Teo basically said, dude, you got to just be the guy you were in AAA. If that means that you're going to strike out more often, if that means that you're going to not take pretty at bats, so be it. But if you're a hacker, go up there and hack. And he's a special player when it comes to putting bat to ball. And when you combine that with the fact that, he put in the work this offseason and is very clearly, I would say, a top 10% outfielder in baseball right now defensively.
Yeah.
Huge asset for the Dodgers, another big player development win for the Dodgers, which is really exciting. And so, I couldn't be more excited about Andy Pages.
Yeah, I think you have to be excited about him. And, again, he touched up the Yankees a little bit this weekend. So that's got to be something to smile at as well. He's doing it against some of the better teams in the league. So let's move to the Yankees. As we said before, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Dodgers and Yankee series specifically in a little bit. But I do think that I'm kind of in a similar boat. It's really hard to be upset right now, right? They come in right now at 36-22. I'm all right. I'm good with that, right? They just they're coming back home now off a 9-game West Coast road trip. Would I have liked to have swept the Colorado Rockies? Sure. But if you look at it from the grand scheme of things, you went 5-1 in in 2 series back-to-back against the Angels and the Rockies. Fine. You swept the Angels instead of the Rockies, right? So I feel pretty good about that. Listen, the first 2 games at Dodger Stadium were heartbreaking, right? Obviously, I texted you on Saturday. I was on the Saturday game where it was 4-0 Dodgers in the first inning. Will Warren had been getting brutalized. I'm I already turned off the game. I'm not even watching it anymore. I was just I'm going to watch the Knicks lose. That's what I'm going to do instead. But listen, not getting swept by the Dodgers, I think, is a win for the Yankees. Being able to rebound again on Sunday, hit Yamamoto, who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this season. So I'm not overly upset about the Dodger series, even though the first 2 games were pretty heartbreaking. And then you kind of go into a stretch now where the opponents aren't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you get a 6-game homestand now against Cleveland and Boston. You're going to get a playoff atmosphere. This is where I think we're really going to see what the Yankees are made of here. I think we understand what the Yankees are capable of, right? As of right now, they're going through a really nice offensive stretch, right? Judge has been, obviously, Aaron Judge. Goldschmidt's been very, very good. Cody Bellinger, especially, has kind of come around with the bat. Jason Dominguez, hopefully he's healthy. Jason Dominguez, especially from the left side of the plate, has been a massive threat. So, again, the Yankees are playing great baseball right now. There's really nothing to complain about. Again, a solid West Coast road trip. I don't think they go as far. I forget who said this, but I think it was what it is they don't go further west than Texas for the rest of the year. So that's something. So listen, it's hard to complain right now as a Yankee fan. Would we have liked to take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers as the kind of revenge World Series tour? Yeah, but it is what it is. It's baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about that series later because there are a couple really interesting things that came out of it, and things that I think are worth reacting to, and other things that I think are worth totally ignoring with regards to that series. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll obviously dive more into that. Mike, I'm excited to talk about some of these potential sellers because I think the names that are going to end up moving at the deadline this year are names that we didn't expect to be talking about before the season.
Yeah.
The way I presented it to you via text was, obviously I want to talk a little bit about the Arizona Diamondbacks and the way that they have fallen apart, even during a part of their schedule that looked pretty manageable. But the Braves are 3-8 in their last 11 as well. The Rangers are kind of sitting. Are they fourth behind the Angels now? I think they're still in third, but they're not looking like the contender that was expected. So I'm really excited to get into which one of these teams are sellers. But to start, I'm curious, out of those three teams, Diamondbacks, Braves, Rangers, they're all sitting a little bit under 500. Which one do you think has a chance to turn it around? And by that, I mean, like, actually go on a run.
I think so. Here's the thing. I think the Diamondbacks are the best team, but I also think that the Rangers probably have the best shot at turning it around. Like, here's the reality. Like, I think the Rangers are a better offensive team than what they've shown so far, right? They are simply not hitting. They're not hitting, right? I think they're better than what they are, right? You look up and down their order, and that is just loaded with guys that are simply underperforming. I mean, guys like Marcus Semien has had a terrible year to start, right? Like, it's just been really, really awful. But I also think they play in a division that is more than manageable, right? They're 29-31 right now. They are in third place. They're 2 games ahead of the Angels, but they're in third place. They're 4 games out of first with Seattle and then the Astros. And I don't view either one of those teams as massive juggernauts. I think the Astros have clearly taken a step back. Seattle, we have no idea what they're going to do towards the end of the year, whether their bats can stay afloat, whether or not they're going to hold on to all their pitching. So I don't think that this is a completely unwinnable division. And in the National League, I mean, you're talking about the Braves where, like, I think at this point in the year, the Braves are in fourth. They're 9.5 games out of first. I think the Mets, say what you want about the Nationals, but like the Mets and the Phillies, I think, are clearly better than them now. Like, I think we've kind of reached a point in the season where, like, okay, the Mets and the Phillies, they're going to be at the top of the division. They're going to be fighting it out for first place, where the Braves have just kind of fallen back into the crowd a little bit. And I feel the same way about the Diamondbacks. I do. First of all, I think the Dodgers are going to win the division, and I think the Dodgers are going to win the division. By the end of the year, I think the Dodgers are going to probably be close to damn well running away with it. But the Padres are still a very, very good baseball team. Like, that's a World Series contender. The Giants, say what you want about the Giants, whether or not you're a believer in the Giants or not, but they're 33-26. Like, they're 3 games out of first in the NL West, and the NL West is clearly the best division in baseball. So I would say, just from everything else, right? Just everything from how good the National League is and how good those divisions are. I don't know. I think by default, almost, the Rangers have the best shot at turning it around.
Yeah, I mean, I had similar thoughts to you, although I think the Rangers are genuinely not as good as we thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, Adolis Garcia now has gone through long stretches like this. This isn't the first time that we've seen this happen with him.
Yeah.
I think he has legitimate holes that pitchers have figured out. I mean, look, the Rangers are 28th in baseball in OPS. Like, their offensive stats are comparable to Colorado, Miami, the White Sox. And this is a team that wanted to hang its hat on its offense. I mean, the starting pitching is decent, but even with Jacob deGrom looking better than I think most people expected, this team is a bit of a mess. And I don't see it getting a lot better, because I don't think – I'll put it this way. If the Rangers were dealing with a bunch of injuries, I'd feel differently. Mm-hmm. But they've been pretty healthy, and they're not hitting at all. And they play in a pitcher's park. I think they need offensive help like yesterday. Now, your point's well taken with regards to, like, look, they play in the American League, right? So if you think about who's going to make a run, the team that plays in the AL or the team that plays in the NL, probably an AL team. But I think the Mariners are a bit of a different team this year. Like
Mhm.
Cal Raleigh is all of a sudden the second best hitter in the American League probably so far.
It's remarkable.
League leader in homers, right?
He's got 1,000 OPS. Yeah.
A big part of that's the fact that now he's hitting well right-handed too, right?
Right.
He's bringing value on both sides. And I think the Mariners, we'll talk about some of the trade targets, but you think about if the Diamondbacks move Josh Naylor, right? Like Mariners are going to be the team in the market for a first baseman.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up in Seattle. You could see him and Ryan O'Hearn end up in Seattle if and when Baltimore decides to sell. Ryan Mountcastle could so I think, and I'm naming those names to say I think the Mariners are going to add legitimate thump to that lineup at the deadline. Their pitching has not only been excellent, but it's been relatively healthy, like miraculously relatively. Which, by the way, fun little trivia question for you here. I listen to a lot of different sports stuff. Yeah. I heard this mentioned earlier on a baseball pod I was listening to. One team in baseball this year has maintained the entire same starting rotation from opening day till now with no injuries. What team do you think that is?
Well, if it's like giving it away, if we're staying on topic, I'm going to assume it's the Mariners.
It's not the Mariners. George Kirby's missed time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not the Mariners. The Anaheim Angels have run out this rotation of Kyle Hendricks and Jose Soriano and Jared Kahanowitz and
Yusei Kikuchi and Tyler Anderson.
Yeah. Yep. Those are the other two. They've run out that exact same rotation all season. Hasn't helped them. They're bottom third in every pitching stat, but if they're
anything, they're consistent.
Yeah, if they're doing anything right, they're keeping their pitching healthy. But that's also something that, as a betting man, I'll tell you, is a flashing sell sign on the Angels if you're all of a sudden an Angels believer. That being said, enough about them. But I think what I'm getting at, the reason I mentioned the Mariners is I think they're a team that I'm going to mention in a lot of these trade scenarios. I think the Diamondbacks at this point are the most likely of those three to become sellers because the pitching has imploded. Like Zach Gallen, we saw signs of regression with him last year.
Yeah.
Now he's just not good. I mean, I dropped him from my fantasy team level of not good, and I didn't expect to see that coming. Corbin Burns is probably going to need elbow surgery. That's usually what it means when somebody leaves the game like he did yesterday.
Yeah, that's
unfortunate. And Merrill Kelly, I think, gets shipped away at the deadline. So I think Arizona is a team where you're probably going to see guys like Christian Mena and I forget the other guy. They have this other young prospect I'm excited to see in the rotation sooner rather than later. And I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the year around 500, retool going into next year. They're not a team that's going to rebuild, but I think some of these one-year pieces for them get moved. So Arizona is a team I'm selling hardest. Atlanta, I think with Ronald Acuna just coming back a few weeks ago, I still think they believe in what they're building there. The NL wild card is something I expect them to be involved in. And look, for Texas, it's just a matter of playing in the AL. So to me, Arizona is the team most likely to sell.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think Arizona is more likely to sell. I think that there's definitely a chance. I think Merrill Kelly is going to be like one of the real hot button names to watch at the deadline. Like it's not like, it's somebody that they could let go. I think they're going to trade Merrill Kelly. Yeah. I think that's a real possibility. It wouldn't surprise me if they let go of some bats too. It would not surprise me if they let go of Eugenio Suarez. I think he's a guy that they could let go. I don't know. Could they flip Josh Naylor after a half a season? Right. Like, I don't think.
I think Josh Naylor is on a 1-year deal. So he's the guy that to me is almost certainly going.
Right. Like, but they've got guys here. Like they're not going to trade Corbin Carroll or Ketel Marte or
hell no,
anything like that. Right. Like those are their building blocks. But, could Lourdes Gurriel get dealt?
Right. It's some of those vets, right? Like even Geraldo Perdomo, they've signed him long-term. He's not going anywhere, but
right.
Talk about Lourdes Gurriel. Randall Grichuk is still a very useful hitter to bring off the bench against lefties for a team.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like they've been dangling Alec Thomas and Jake McCarthy for 5 years. So could this finally be the time that they, cut those guys loose a little bit? So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
It certainly will be. And it's a shame that what's, again, presumably going to be happening with Corbin Burns. They signed him to a massive contract. And he's been good for them. I mean, his ERA is in the mid twos. Like Corbin Burns has been good. And you're right about Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen's got a 5.5 ERA. Like he's just has not been good. And he's made 12 starts too. It's not like he hasn't pitched.
I mean, I think Zach Gallen probably gets moved too. Honestly,
You think?
Yeah.
Would anybody? But that's the thing. Is like, is it just would the Diamondback? How many years does Zach Gallen have left on his contract? Like, is he?
I think he's either a free agent or he's got 1 year left.
Yeah, I want to see if this is what we are on this show. We're nothing if we're not prepared.
We're doing it live.
Yeah, he's a free agent next year.
Yeah, free agent after this season. He's making
free agent next year. Yeah, so that makes it even more likely then. So because my question was then going to be, or my only pushback on that was going to be, would they really sell that low on Zach Gallen, given how great he has been in the league, right? Because he's not old. Like, I mean, next year's going to be his age 30 season, right? So he still has some years left, presumably. But now that, I mean, they might just sell him to be like, listen, we're not going to sign him back. We might as well, get something for him, whether we, since we're going to lose him for free anyway. So I don't know, as a rental piece, but that's the thing is like his value, like Zach Gallen and Sandy Alcantara are kind of in the same boat now, right? Because those are two pitchers that you could presumably say could be available at the deadline, and they're ace level. Like we've seen them have ace level stuff and ace level production, but they've both been dreadful this whole year. So what contending team is going to give, like, what contending team is going to go out and trade for those guys with the full-blown plan of inserting them into a potential playoff rotation if they've pitched horribly this whole year? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think there are a lot of teams that are willing to buy into the pedigree and are willing to buy into the idea of Zach Gallen as a guy who's been a solid pitcher in this league for enough years now that they're going to believe that he can turn it around in a new environment. I mean, just 2 years ago, this guy was 98th percentile in pitching run value, right? I mean, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball 2023. Even last year, he finished the season relatively above average in most categories. Mm-hmm. The problem with Gallen is the stuff has never been elite, right? I mean, we're talking about a 93.2 mile an hour fastball on average. Yeah. And so he's always a guy that has to be precise. He has to, spin the ball a certain way. And it's just not working right now. But it's not like his velocity's fallen. His four-seamer is about the same as it's always been. So I think it's still in there. I think he might just need some different voices. He's not a guy that I'm giving up on, like, career-wise, but he's clearly not putting it together right now in the environment that he's in. I mean, Mike, I'll put it this way. Like, if you're the Yankees, right, and injuries happen pitching-wise, and you're in a position where your playoff rotation is Fried, Rodon, ? I mean, you could do a lot worse than filling that question mark with Zach Gallen and getting him in front of the Yankees pitching coaching, right? I mean, You saw how Ryan Yarbrough looked last night and how many bats he's missing all of a sudden this year.
Yeah, no, Ryan Yarbrough's been great for about 2 months, like a month and a half. Yeah. He's been great. No, the Yankees certainly do have a solid pitching development department. That's been well documented. But I think you're right. I think part of that equation becomes, what teams are suffering through injuries. Zach Gallen is not going to be a guy that a team that has pitching like acquires to make their pitching better. Zach Gallen then becomes a player that, like, he's going to get traded to a team where, like, are in a situation like you described, right?
Yeah.
They don't have pitching that they're just trying to bolster the staff. They're trying to insert a hole. Like, they're trying to figure out that – pause, excuse me. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it's like the Dodgers. It's like the Dodgers with Flaherty last year. Same
Yeah.
idea, right? Like a team that needs a stopgap arm that can eat innings and in the right environment can maybe be that guy.
Listen, if it wasn't the NL West, the Dodgers would kind of make sense for
Oh,
Zach Gallen, would it not?
Look, if Zach Gallen right now was pitching for the Brewers, right, or he was pitching
Right.
for the
If he was
Orioles,
pitching,
like,
if he was pitching for the Cleveland Guardians, then yeah, 100%.
yeah.
I don't know.
But the Diamondbacks are not. They're not going to send it. They're not going to send a piece to the Dodgers. It's not going to happen.
No, it's no. No, that's not going to happen. What? So when it comes to the Texas Rangers, how far out do they need to be like, all right, we can't win this division? Like, because they're 4 games out now. In a month, like, we're going to start having real trade discussions in a few weeks to a month, right? Like, if they're sitting there 4.5 games out, they just hover where they are. I don't know that they sell because the division's in grasp for them.
Well, and not only that, but they're only 3 games out of a wild card spot. And you look at the teams in front of them. You've got Tampa, Kansas City, Toronto, Minnesota, and then obviously Cleveland and Houston. Like, I mean, I think Cleveland, Houston, and Minnesota are the best 3 out of that group, but none of those teams stumbling would shock me, right? Like, if you line up Texas against Tampa, Kansas City, Toronto, Minnesota, Houston, Cleveland, and you tell me, hey, I think Texas is the best out of those 7 teams, like, I'm not going to agree or disagree. I'm going to be like, yeah, they might be, And I know that's me saying a whole lot of nothing, but what I'm getting at is, like, it's not like they're sitting here looking up at the Padres, the Phillies, and the Braves in wild card spots, right? In the AL, all of these teams are capable of going on horrendous runs potentially.
Right.
And so, if their bats do figure it out, they're going to factor in. But this next 3 weeks for them is critically important.
Well, yeah.
Maybe we'll call it the next 5 weeks, but from now until a week or 2 before the All-Star break for them is going to determine everything with regards to their season.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think Jacob deGrom is, like, first of all, he's remarkable. Like, the guy's just remarkable. Like, the guy hasn't pitched in half a decade, it feels like. And he's still pretty damn good, dude. Like, he's still pretty nasty.
I mean, Mike, you don't have to tell me, man. And the fantasy league that I'm in with you, y'all let me draft him 82nd overall. So you don't have to tell me. I got him in the 9th round of that draft. Which, by the way, we're not going to talk about our fantasy league on this show much, but I got this whole league by the balls. So just ask.
Oh, dude, it's wraps. It's over. Curtains. It's wraps. But speaking of which, though, the Rangers pitching, and again, I again, like the whole thing with this show, I'm doing it now. Their pitching's been kind of elite. Like, let's be honest, right? They're tied for 2nd in runs allowed. They're tied for 1st in hits allowed, 3rd in batting average against, 2nd in ERA, 1st in WHIP. Like, they've pitched well.
They have. I mean, I'm looking at some of the expected, like, so they're starting pitching with an xFIP of 10th, xFIP 3.83. I mean, they've been good. They've also been really healthy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, the reason they're 29-31 right now and not 19-41 is because their pitching has been solid, right? It's been as advertised. My problem with Texas is when they get into tough parts of their schedule, I don't know how they're going to get enough outs out of the bullpen. Like, their bullpen is bottom half of the league in xFIP.
Yeah.
And the starting rotation, you're relying on a couple guys that I'm going to call fossils a little bit when you talk about deGrom and Eovaldi, where if either one of those guys goes down, it starts getting really thin. I mean, you're asking a lot out of Tyler Mahle at that point. And so I'm just not I'm just not totally sold on the Rangers from any perspective. And I don't know, man. I mean, this is kind of where we were preseason too, though, right? You were a buyer on the Rangers. I was a seller on the Rangers preseason. So,
well, I mean, here's the thing, though, is like I'm not certain that I'm a buyer that I think the Rangers are potentially going to win the American League. But the question was, do I think that they're going to sell? Right? I think there's a certain threshold. So we have somebody in the comments, Tristan Reyes, who brings up a good point. That whole division is capable of horrendous runs. The Rangers aren't out of it until 10 games out in August. And that's kind of true. But that's the thing is I just, they're going to look at this threshold that they're in of like, how far out of it do we need to be? And I don't know if by July 31st, we're looking at it and we're like, yeah, they're out. Like, I don't know that we're going to get to that point in a month and a half.
Yeah. I also wonder, do you have to be at that point to do a minor sell? Like, if you're Texas and you're 6 games out, you're third place in the division, you're 5-6 games out of the wild card, you're sitting at, let's say, 40-42, right? Like, and you've got teams offering you top dollar for Nathan Eovaldi.
Right.
Do you listen? Like,
yeah.
So again, I don't think any one of these teams are teams that would enter like full, like Miami Marlins seller mode. These are all teams that intend to be contenders in 2026.
Yeah.
Where they draw a comparison to me are last year's Cubs. We had similar conversations about them where it was like, they're still kind of right in it, but they're not really putting it together. They're clearly not a team that wants to tear it down, but you have to imagine they'd be willing to move some guys. And we saw it a little bit, right? Like Mark Leiter Jr. getting moved to the Yankees, a couple other moves they made. So,
yeah.
I mean, but you're right. I mean, it's especially in the American League, it's difficult to imagine those teams running away and hiding. If anybody's going to do it, by the way, I'm more sold now on Seattle than I have been at any other point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Last question on this before we move on. Last year at the deadline, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later on as well when we get closer. Last year at the deadline, the price for pitching was ridiculous. Ridiculous, right? I mean, and the trade that stood out to me, right? And I'm not sure if I'm remembering the whole trade or not, but when the Orioles got Trevor Rogers in exchange for Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Okay.
Yeah.
But we heard, I don't know, for the next few weeks to a month, that the price for pitching at the trade deadline last year was at a point that we've never seen before. Like, is that something that we're going to end up seeing again?
I think that was talked about a little bit more than it was the case, because I think the Orioles trade stood out to me quite a bit, and the way the Padres operated stood out to me quite a bit, with teams that were just like, screw it, I'm sending out 4 of my top 10 prospects to acquire an arm. There were other trades that didn't look like that at all. Do you remember, like, Eric Fetty with the White Sox was dominant in the first half last year?
Yeah, right.
And they got him for Tommy Pham, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, and the Dodgers in that trade flipped Miguel Vargas and got Michael Kopech and Tommy Edman out of it. So I guess Edman moved on. I guess they had to give up Edman also. But
I remember that you were legitimately mad about the Eric Fetty trade because the White Sox got so little back. You're right.
I was mad about it from the White Sox perspective, because to me, like, I felt like the Dodgers made what I thought at the time was going to be a good trade. Turned out to be a great trade.
Yeah, right. I thought
the Cardinals did a great job. But if you're the White Sox, like, what are you getting there? Like, what did they actually get from that trade? Just Miguel Vargas? That's it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I'm happy to see that Miguel Vargas Vargas is starting to show some of the promise that he showed in the Dodgers minor league system. Like sometimes guys just need a new environment, and but like that's, I guess, to kind of summarize what I'm getting at here. I think the Marlins did a really good job of getting great value for Trevor Rogers, but I don't trust a lot of these other teams to get the value they should. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even like the Dodgers trade with the Tigers, like Jack Flaherty was a huge part of that World Series run, and all the Dodgers really gave up was Trey Sweeney, who, to be fair, seems like a potentially decent young shortstop for Detroit, but I wouldn't say that the Dodgers paid a ton there. So I do think now, if you're talking about a guy like Eovaldi, yeah, the price is going to be high, but a guy like Zach Gallen might be available a lot cheaper than he should.
Right. Yeah. And not to mention, by the way, Trey Sweeney was a guy the Dodgers got from the Yankees for who? Caleb Ferguson?
Yep.
Is that who it was? So you turned Caleb Ferguson into Jack Flaherty?
Oh, I mean, so Trey Sweeney, he came to the Dodgers, I think it was the Victor Gonzalez deal.
Oh, was it Victor? It was, you know what? You're right. It was
the Victor Gonzalez deal.
And Victor Gonzalez didn't last the season with the Yankees.
Yeah. I actually don't know if Victor Gonzalez is still in baseball.
He might not be.
But yeah, I mean, there are certain teams in baseball you almost shouldn't trade with. Tampa Bay Rays are another one of those teams quietly that you just probably shouldn't trade with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. You can't bring the Dodgers up in this. They fleece everyone. Humble Dodgers brag. Good on you.
I mean, I'll take it. It's fair.
It's true. But hey, listen, you know, just can't hide that fact. All right, so let's move to this, Dalton. The series with the Yankees and Dodgers, right? We talked about this a little bit before when we were talking about our teams, but this was a series that, again, when it came to your predictions, it went the opposite way of what you predicted, but it also went in your favor since you're a Dodger fan and I'm a Yankee fan. So it did end up going that way. But game one, Dodgers came back and won 8-5 on Friday. Dodgers then spanked the Yankees 18-2 on Saturday. I didn't even watch that game. It was awful. And then the Yankees ended up winning game 3 of that series 7-3 as they beat up on Yamamoto a little bit. So, Dalton, what are your takeaways? Any overreactions? Any underreactions? What should we be taking away from the Yankees-Dodgers series this weekend?
Well, so I made this point to you before we went on air. Like, of the 6 pitchers that started those 3 games, 2 of those 6 realistically have a shot of starting if those 2 teams are playing the World Series again. Right. And that's Max Fried and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, each of which were hit as hard as they have been at any point this season.
Right.
So I say all that to say, like, an 18-2 result on Saturday can only really be meaningful if you think Will Warren is going to be starting a World Series game for the Yankees, which, spoiler alert, he's not. Same thing goes for, like Landon Knack is not going to be starting a postseason. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because he actually had to start postseason games last year. So you never know with the Dodgers.
Theoretically,
right? So right. In that sense, it's hard to take too much from it. They don't feel like regular season, late May, early June games because it's the Yankees and the Dodgers, but that's what they are. That being said, what I'm encouraged by is in this run of the Dodgers schedule where our bullpen is we've got Lou Trevino out there throwing meaningful innings. We've got Chris Stratton out there eating innings. These are guys who have been a part of the Dodgers organization for a matter of days, not weeks. And right. We've got them out there eating somewhat meaningful innings against the Yankees because we just don't have arms. The fact that we're still winning ball games despite that has me really excited about what the Dodgers are offensively. I think we are, assuming that there's a certain amount of health that's maintained, I think the Dodgers are good enough offensively to roll into the postseason with a completely broken pitching staff like last year and potentially have things break their way again. That's the only real takeaway I take from it. Haesung Kim is a dude, clearly, And giving up on Gavin Lux in favor of him looks great, especially because the prospect the Dodgers got from Lux, Mike Sirota, has been carving up the minors. So, I mean, I couldn't be more excited about where the Dodgers are offensively. You'd like to see the pitching get healthy, but the fact that you can still go in and take 2 of 3 from a Yankees team that was playing well for the most part is really encouraging. So I don't come away from it feeling any worse about the Yankees, especially not in that American League that they play in. But I do come away from it feeling like a little bit more encouraged about the Dodgers, regardless of what happens over the rest of this hell stretch of their season.
Right. Yeah, no, I think what this series told me is that the Dodgers are still better than everybody else. like that's still, at least for me, that's how it seemed. Just because we all understand the health debacle that they're in. Okay. They have no pitching right now. None. Okay. And they're still figuring out a way to win games at a pretty damn high clip. Like, and beating up. And listen, no matter how you slice it, you could walk into today and say the Yankees could I would feel pretty comfortable saying the Yankees are a top 5 team in baseball today. They are. Okay. And the Dodgers smoked them on 2 straight days. Okay. And I know that the 8-5 Friday score does not like really indicate an ass kicking, but it really kind of was an ass kicking. Okay. The Yankees had the game early, and then for 2 innings of that game, the Dodgers just abused them. And that's just the way that's the way that game was. So I do think, as a Yankee fan, it hurt me because I just kept coming away with like, God damn it, like the Dodgers own us. Like we are now like the Dodgers' son. Like that's what I kept, coming away with. So yes, it was an interesting series. I do think that as a Yankee fan, you're happy not being swept. Honest to God, right? Like, yeah, it was a revenge game. It was a revenge series for us, right? For losing the World Series. We lost it in our home stadium. Like, obviously it became, there was a lot of emotion that came with that. But once the first 2 games came around, you're just like, okay, like, let's just walk away with some dignity. You know what I mean? Like, let's walk away with some dignity in this series. And they did, which again, like, I'm okay with how the series ended up being as long as we didn't get swept. I do think today that the Dodgers are just simply a better team. I have throughout the year, before the season started, into last year, have thought the Dodgers are a better team than the Yankees. So it doesn't surprise me of anything. One thing that I am happy about is that the Yankees for 2 of these games, right? Saturday to me almost doesn't count. Okay. And I'll make that point first. I almost look at the Saturday game, Dalton, and I'm curious if you look at this differently just from a Dodgers perspective, but the Saturday game almost didn't happen in my eyes. Like, it was just one of those like outlier games where like you just like one team blew out the other. Right. It really doesn't say anything about anything. It's just the pitching didn't have it on one side and the offense was just on one that day. So Saturday's game to me, like, it's almost indicative of nothing. Like, it was a complete blowout game, didn't happen, move on to the next day. Right.
Yeah.
But 2 of those games, the Yankees took Dodger pitching that they've been struggling to find over the last, several weeks, month, right? And they hit it. Like it's not like the Yankees where like we saw it last year and years past where the Yankees sort of play down to their competition. That's kind of a tendency that they have sometimes. They didn't do that. The Yankees played solid baseball all weekend with the exception of Saturday. So again, like I said, it's hard to be upset, but I just came away from this thinking like, everything that we thought was true is true. The Dodgers are very, very, very good. The Yankees are also good, but not as good as the Dodgers. And honestly, that's what I came away with.
Yeah, I mean, I almost would argue that you can take away even less from the series than that.
Mhm.
Just because, like, because I mean, to talk about your comments on the Saturday game, like that's a game where if you're the team doing the beating of ass, you're like enjoying it, you're having fun with it, and there is something to it because it's like, hey, our bats are hot, right? Like that's the kind of
Mhm.
game that can get your bats hot for a week. So it can hold some meaning to that team.
Sure. Right.
But if you're the team receiving the ass beating and your pitcher doesn't get through 2 innings and gives up 7 runs, you're like, okay, like over the course of a 162 game season, that's going to happen 4 or 5 times where you just get blown out of the water immediately with a young pitcher on the mound in an environment that he looked a little bit overwhelmed by. And
Right.
from there, you're not throwing your best arms. You're tossing Pablo Reyes out there at the end. Like it is what it is, right? So like I
Yeah.
agree. If you're a Yankee fan, like it's you lost one game, you happen to lose it by a bunch of runs, whatever. So no, I mean, again, I like the Yankees are in perfectly good shape. They will be buying at the deadline and supplementing and
Mhm.
Mike, they've done a heck of a good job too, man. Like when you talk about the Juan Soto situation, you and I talked a lot all off season about how bad it was going to be if Soto didn't come back. That Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, Devin Williams, but
Devin Williams
Freed,
has been
like it's
yeah,
worked, man. It really has. Like
it
this is
has.
this is a deeper team, and some of their young guys are starting to hopefully turn it around. I mean, Austin Wells looks great. Ben Rice is hitting homers. Like Jason Dominguez, assuming I think it was his wrist is okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but I don't know, man. You guys are in a good spot.
Braden Adams, I like this in the comment section. On the Yankee side, is Jason Derulo going to be okay? Referencing Jason Dominguez. I really hope so. It doesn't seem like it's a serious injury, but, could he end up on the IL? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, and listen, you're right, man. You're right. The Yankees right now are 5.5 games into first place with the Blue Jay. And the rest of the AL East is kind of beating the hell out of themselves. Right,
Yeah.
Blue Jays, Rays, Red Sox. By the way, the Red Sox, have they taken a dip or have they taken a dip? Like we really thought at the beginning of the season, and the season's not over. Let's not pretend like it is. But we thought at the beginning of the year, like early on in the year, we're just like, man, the Red Sox look legit. They're 29-32 and they're 8.5 games out of first.
I think the Red Sox have some real like culture-y, clubhousey issues. I mean, I really do. Like, I think when you talk about um, the whole Rafi Devers situation, and now you lose both Bregman and Casas, and you don't have Devers playing either one of those positions because
Mm-hmm.
you told him preseason to throw away his glove. That's allegedly the exact quote. Like, I think the vibes there are bad and getting worse.
Yeah.
Cora's job is allegedly about as safe as it can be because he seems to have power over the front office. But you have to wonder how bad things would have to get before heads start rolling. You also have to wonder, like, okay, if you're the Red Sox, right, and things continue to go poorly, like, do they sell? Like, does Walker Bueller end up on the move? Does he end up back in Dodger blue? I'm just dreaming aloud, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure every Dodger fan would love to see that, but I don't think that that's out of the question either. I don't like they could now. I don't know who they would move, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard it because it involves the Padres, but the Padres apparently there's a rumor that the Padres are interested in getting Jaron Duran, but I don't know if the Red Sox would ever be interested in moving him. I mean, he's not having a great year this year, totally polar opposite of what he was last year, but
I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either. But that's kind of to my point of like I don't even know what they move. Like, okay, Walker Bueller, you can move him, but like nobody of substance, I can't imagine you're dumping, right? Like
Yeah.
you getting rid of like maybe Aroldis Chapman you get rid of. Like, is that really the extent of where we're going
I
for
mean, yeah, you're getting rid of the veteran guys that you kind of just tagged along, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Walker Bueller kind of falls into that category for them. Aroldis Chapman's definitely in that category.
You
But
could move some outfielders, I suppose, right? You got to make room for Roman Anthony, so
so
Willie Abreu, and
I mean, but you're not going to move Willie Abreu unless you're getting like a real major league player that can help you today, right? So here's the thing with the Red Sox to kind of just put a bow on it, right?
yeah,
The absurdity of the Roman Anthony situation like encapsulates the problems with the Red Sox. Because think about it this way. The whole reason Roman Anthony's not in the big leagues right now is because the Red Sox are pretty good in the outfield. Like
right, yeah.
they have plenty of outfielders at the major league level that are producing fine, and they don't want to demote any of those guys.
And they're all
And
young,
so,
and they're all young. Like that's the
well,
crazy part
so
too.
then you think, well, wait a minute, why can't Roman Anthony DH? Oh, that's right, because the guy that's been their third baseman for the last several years, you told to go throw away his glove. So now, like, first of all, I mean, we've talked the Devers thing to death, so I don't want to like go all the way into it, but just briefly, right? They didn't tell Rafael Devers that they were interested in Bregman. They blindsided him by signing Bregman. They told him to throw away his glove and that he was only going to DH. Then they try to go back on it. Devers doesn't want to be a team guy about it, doesn't want to play third. Now you're stuck with Roman Anthony in the minors because you don't have a place to put him. And you're also now trying to teach Christian Campbell, who forgot how to hit, how to play first base because you didn't have any backup plan there whatsoever. By the way, if you're the Red Sox, Dom Smith is a free agent. Why aren't they signing him? Like the Red Sox did not they weren't thoughtful at all about roster construction. They just weren't. Also, Braden Adams in the comments, can you please talk about Roman Anthony? My call is that he's Jason Hayward 2.0. I mean, I can see where that comes from in terms of like the profile of the player when you watch each one hit, like a big left-handed hitter with a bit of a long swing. Like I see it. I mean, Jason Hayward hasn't had a horrible career, but I get it. Jason Hayward was supposed to be the second coming. But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put that on the kid. Like I think he's going to be pretty special.
There was a point where I mean, Jason Hayward, when he came up, by the way, was like an Adonis. Like that dude was insanely athletic. He didn't look like other baseball players. He really didn't. He was he was O'Neal Cruz before O'Neal Cruz. So, the dude is loop-de-loop with his swing. I can appreciate that. All right. So, let's give you a score update real quick here. The Colorado Rockies right now they have a leg up on the Marlins right now in Miami. They're up 5-4 in the bottom of the eighth. A riveting baseball matchup down there in Miami, Florida, between the Rockies and the Marlins.
There's nothing like it.
The Brewers right now, they're on top of the Reds in Cincinnati 3-2. They're in the bottom of the sixth. The Angels with a 6-5 lead on the Red Sox. They're heading into the sixth. It was 6-0 at one point in this game. Richard Fitz for the Red Sox gave up 6 runs in the first, gave up 3 homers in the first inning. Zach Neto, Mike Trout, and Joe Adell took him deep in Boston. So the Angels right now with a 6-5 lead over the Red Sox. The Tigers right now with an 8-0 lead over the White Sox in the south side of Chicago. They're heading into the bottom of the fourth. And again, it's one of these short schedule Mondays. Just a couple of late games as well. The Padres and Giants, that's in San Francisco. Stephen Kolek and Logan Webb on the bump for that one. And then later on tonight, the Twins and the A's from Sacramento. That's Joe Ryan, Luis Severino. Good pitching matchup in that one as well. That's going down at 10:05. And then the Mets and Dodgers. I mean, that's going to be an interesting series for you, Dalton. Mets, Dodgers from Chavez Ravine. It's Paul Blackburn and Dustin May getting the starts for those two teams. Two of the better teams in the National League. I mean, that's a series that I'm sure you're coming off a series against the Yankees where you take 2 out of 3. They just lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets at Citi Field. So, I mean, what are we looking for here?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit about that game in the hot corner, but I Paul Blackburn making his first start of the season at Dodger Stadium. I like our offense's chances tonight. I'll say that I played Dodgers team total over 4.5. I will almost always play Dodgers team total over 4.5 unless they're facing one of the top pitchers in the game. It usually is a number that's going to come through. I'm more interested to see like what do we get out of Dustin May, because the talent obviously with Dustin May has always been there. The problem I've noticed with him is him managing his emotions on the mound. He just hasn't done it very well. When things start to go poorly, they seem to spiral for him.
Mm-hmm.
I need him to manage that better tonight. That's what, that's what I'm really looking for here. He did, like, his last start in Cleveland was solid, right? His start before that in Arizona was solid. But he blew up against the Angels. Like, he's a little too volatile for me. So, I have tepid excitement about him. Like, I'm interested to see what we're going to get.
Yeah. The pitching matchups, by the way, in that series, Paul Blackburn, Dustin May. Game 2 of that series is Tyler McGill and Clayton Kershaw. And then in game 3 of that series on Wednesday, it is Griffin Canning and Tony Gonsolin. It's kind of, maybe outside of this game tonight, the Mets pitching matchups, for this series, interesting. Kershaw's pitched right now to a 5 ERA. Tony Gonsolin's got over a 5 ERA. Griffin Canning's been one of the better pitchers in the National League this year. So interesting how that series could potentially shake out. All right. Let's go hot corner. Dalton, you got picks for us tonight. What do we have?
Yeah. I only made 3 baseball bets today. They're all actually on the late slate. So I'll just kind of run through them, and none of these are like can't lose bets I'm all pumped about. Right. But, like I said, I like the Dodgers team total over 4.5. That's a number I'm always looking to play when they're facing somebody of roughly Paul Blackburn coming off an injuries caliber. I also like the matchup with the Mets bullpen tonight as far as the usage. Reed Garrett and Edwin Diaz both pitched yesterday. They both pitched 2 of the last 3 days. Not to say that they won't go to those guys if they need to, but those are guys that have both thrown more than 30 pitches in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
So I think we might see some Jose Butto. I know it's Buto, but I prefer to say Butto. Huascar Brazoban, Ryan Stanek. So I think, if Blackburn doesn't go deep, which I don't anticipate that he will, the Dodgers are going to get to look at some of the lower end Mets arms who we just saw a week and a half ago. I think the Dodgers are going to swing it a bit tonight. The reason I'm not betting them on the money line is because I think the Mets might swing it a bit tonight too. I like the plus 160 with the Padres tonight in San Francisco. This is not a Padres team that's been playing particularly well. I get it, but I think plus 160 is a little bit much. Stephen Kolek has kind of been shaky, but I think we've seen flashes enough from him that if he can just keep them in the game, I like the matchups late for the Padres bullpen.
Right.
I think they have the better lineup. I think plus 160 is just a little bit generous. I'd probably line them around plus 120 in that game. So I think there's a little bit of value with San Diego tonight as a dog. And then I like the Twins quite a bit. I was able to get them at minus 155. It's gone up a little bit now. I think you're looking at minus 165 depending on where you look. But Joe Ryan has been lights out for the Twins. The Twins bullpen has been really good. That's a team that they lost 2 out of 3 in Seattle, but all 3 of those games are winnable. And Twins over the last 3-4 weeks have been consistently very solid. The problem for Oakland is Oakland can't stop giving up runs, especially at home. And so I think, Severino's been at least serviceable for them, but their bullpen has been god awful. I mean, literally worst xFIP in baseball for the season. And so I just don't see how Oakland wins a game that Joe Ryan starts with the way he's been pitching. I'll just put it that simply. I'd make the Twins minus 200, minus 230, that range. So minus 155, not a number I love to play, but you can lay, 1.7 units to win 1.1, something like that. I think it's worth doing.
Yep. Makes sense in that respect. The A's, I forget who said it, but the A's play in a minor league park and the ball just tends to fly out of those damn things. Like they just.
Oh, it's bad, man. I mean, the problem for them too, like it's really sad. Like you don't like it for the players, but they're not even filling that place up. And Mike, we've talked about this. It's only going to get worse. Sacramento is the surface of the sun in the summer.
Yeah.
It's going to be really bad. And the ball's going to fly further, and they don't have the pitching for that. I mean, their pitching staff is worse than the Rockies like when you look at the numbers, both starters and bullpen.
Yeah.
So if anybody rolls in there with a competent starter and a decent lineup, the A's are always liable to give up 10 runs.
Yeah. Craziness. Can't get them in Vegas.
By the way, do you know what the A's record is in the last 24 games, Mike?
What is it?
3-21.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. They've been as bad as the Rockies over the last month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. But at least they have a cool young shortstop in Jacob Wilson, who's been fairly solid over his rookie season.
They have some fun young offensive pieces, but it's tough to win when you're giving up 7-8 runs every night.
Certainly seems to be that way. All right. That does it for us. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network every Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you catch us here, like I said, exclusively on the Grid Network. And check out everything else while you're checking out the page. We will see you next week.